Hello, welcome to my another video. So today we are going to discuss about some SAT shortcuts, and it is about the transitional questions that we always face at the ending of the SAT first part and the second module. And as you can see, this is SAT prep. That's it. Also, I would like to say that you can see this credit goes to HTM, my YouTube channel. That's it. So before we get to that, let's see what else. What do we know about transitions? What are transitions? There are some questions that I would like to ask you before that. Different rules and formulas of transition. By the way, this I guess there's a mistake about the words. Just leave it there, okay? And many transitions. So before we discuss about all these questions, I have one last question before I would like to discuss about that. And it is you who are going to answer that, okay? Answer this question in the comment box if you want. That is, do you really need to know all that? Honestly, be honest. There are thousands of transitions out there. Similarly, additionally, lastly, forever, second, then again to that, and thousands, okay? So like maybe hundreds, I mean thousands, like a little bit exaggerating, like hundreds is going to be perfect, right? Do you really need to know all the things? This acidity, right? Be smart because you know what? For the most part, the people who actually doesn't get to their projected score like 1500, 1550, or like 1400, their projected score, they really make this mistake. They try to learn every single thing out there that exists. Honestly, really don't need to learn all this stuff. Look out for questions that actually come to the SAT and learn how do they work. Like let me say something. Secondly, then additionally, they are like almost same things. The same ideas is going to be used again and again and again, so they're like almost the same thing. Try this way. Don't go for like additionally is used for to repeat the same ideas, secondly used for one idea then one after another. Don't decide it like that. Honestly, don't read everything specifically. Learn everything together. Learn, use a formula, use like shortcuts, as so that you can remember as much as you can. Don't go for every single transition out there that is existing in this world, because not every transition actually comes. Sometimes there are like, okay, there are differences, there are new transitions, but yeah, there's only like one questions, and one question is points like almost 20, 30 obsolete like that. It is not that it's going to cost you a lot of points. So really go for the main questions that actually comes to the SAT, okay? That's what I would like to discuss before we actually go for what are transitions, different rules, forms of transition, many transitions. There are thousands out there, a lot of videos in YouTube there who have discussed a lot of transitions, and I have another video for transition specifically. So I'm not really going to discuss about transition here. Rather, I'm going to just going to show you the applications of transition here. How are we going to apply these transitions into your questions? And we're going to discuss that here. Okay. So let's get to the main topic now. So this is the question that I got from the College Board account, and this question have come to the May 2025 SCT. So very recent questions. So you should really try for this one. And before that, I would like to go here. Let's read the question first, okay? That's the very first trick that you should use if you want to answer the transitional questions, okay? We know the same question that always comes, which choice completes the text with the most logical transition. We don't need to really read that. Just go for the passage first. So what is the passage? In 1942, the 1500-mile Alaska Highway was constructed in under 9 months, largely due to skilled work of nearly 4,000 African American soldiers from U.S. Army engineering regiments. Okay, we get that. The soldiers' contribution was overlooked for decades. Dash in 2017, lawmakers declared October 25 as a day of recognition, Alaska Highway Day, for the troops who helped build this critical roadway. So, there are lots of transitions. Lastly, then similarly, for example, before we get into the transition, let me give you some actual tricks that you should actually use and take this for notes, okay? Because these are actually useful. If you are going to answer like these types of questions, you will know what am I talking about. But let me give you the notes first, okay? Watch out for dates, times, and names specifically. If you see a passage which starts with a date, a lots of numerical evidence and numerical informations, really watch out for that. Why? I'm telling you later. If there are similar events at the same time, use similarly. The similarity is a transition, or use anything similar to that. And if there are consecutive events, use then or at last or similar to that, like additionally or something like that, or secondly, or anything else. And use then when you see those two choices are not deemed right. Okay, I'm already saying then. Why is it not right here? Wait. I'm giving you an example, but later. First, let me clear this first one. Let's do it one by one, okay? Watch out for dates, time, and names specifically. We can see this page has some dates, so we are going to watch out for that. Let's draw these dates specifically. Oops, I made a mistake. Rubber. Okay. So what am I going to do is I am going to highlight this date in 1942. There's also numerical evidence. I don't know whether it's useful or not because this is also my first time answering this question, so I don't know. So I'm just going to highlight all the numerical evidence, so it may be useful in future. In 1942, the 1500-mile constructed under 9 months. Okay, largely and nearly 4,000 African American soldiers from Southern region overlooked for decades. Gidesh in 2017 declared October 25 as a day of recognition. Blah 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 blah. So that's it. So these are the numerical evidence. And why am I going to saying the watch out? I'm just going to highlight that for first. Okay. Now, what is our second note? If there are similar events at the same time, use similarly. Is it the similar event that we can see here? 1942, 1500-mile Alaska Highway was constructed by African American soldiers, and then, sorry, and as the soldiers' contribution was overlooked, in 2017, lawmakers declared this day as a recognition. So, are these events similar? Yeah, it like in one sense they are almost similar, but are they like are they specifically similar? Like they're clearly, obviously no. Why? Because you can see it's the event that happened in 1942, and it was about construction of the highway. And the next line is about their contribution, which has been overlooked. It is about another decade, so there is a gap between decade. Okay, and then the last line says 2017. So it's like the very ending at the end. Lawmakers declared 25 as a recognition day. So they may be similar in the event, but they are not actually similar because they have different timelines. So we can see here, are the similar events here? Obviously, they are not similar events. So this choice is not right. This choice is wrong. So we can really use similarly here, as we can see. So let's cut this thing out from here. We can use similarly out here because they may look similar events, but they are not because they have different timelines, different stories, so they are not similar. Now, let's go for third one. If there are consecutive events, use then or at last. Yeah, so many mistakes. Use then or at last. Consecutive events. Do we know what is consecutive events? It means the events that come one after another. Like, as we can see here, 1942 is the very beginning, and then there are decades of that means after a decade. After a decade, what does it mean? Like 1942 plus 12 or 10, almost like 52 or 54, something like that. And then there's 2017. So these are like consecutive event. Okay, these are like consecutive events. This whole thing is like consecutive event because you can see this event started in 1942 and their contribution has been discussed for decades and there are 2017 at the very ending. So they are like consecutive events. Now, there is something that we can see. Okay, yeah, there is something that is similar to what we can see. Use then or at last. There are two transitions that we can use here. So, as we can see, this whole paragraph are consecutive events and it is almost similar to what we have been discussing right now. So there's a high chance that we can use both of these transitions, right? Now let's get to the options that we have been given. So what are the options? Lastly, we have been discussed about at last. At last and lastly are almost are same. Okay, so we know that we can use lastly. These are the right choice. We can use then. I'm already telling you, use then. Obviously, there's a high chance we can use then too. Similarly, I will discuss why we can't use similarly. We cannot use similarly. Okay, so this is call cross. For example, they're not giving any example, so we really can use this example here in 2017. Now there are questions that comes lastly and then. As we have been discussing, both of these transition work, but which one works? We always need to answer that one question, right? We can see there we have also another line that is here. So let's read that line too. What does it say? And use then when you see those two are not deemed right. What do you mean by that? You mean then is not right and at last is not right? That's when we will use then? Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, it's just like a juxtaposition or like contrast, but I'm just joking here. If you see like both options are kind of like almost similar or like close, use then. Or you can use at last too, but depending on the context, go for the context first. So let's see what is the context. In 2017, it's like almost the last event here, but what does it say? Lawmakers declared October 25 a day of recognition. Now remember that. When do we use at last? And when do we use then? For the most part, they're consecutive events, right? But now there's the question. Sorry. Okay, here again. So the thing is, when do we use then and at last? Remember that when we are using at last, always be sure at last is always used at the end and after the event's ending. So we can, and for the most part, these events have to be like almost very very close. Like if we say when it started in 1942 and there is a decade, okay, it's fine. And if that event happened, like this lawmaker day, recognition day happened after this decade, that's when we could use like at last. Why? because at last is always choose after the ending of the consecutive events. Like they are very close, not like a very long term. But we can see 1942 decade, and after that there is a very long distance, very long gap of years, and that's 2017, almost like 50 years gap. Obviously, that's not a close range. That's a very big range. And so what we can use here, and for then we can use it every year actually, every year for have like for events that is in chronological order, in consecutive events, in events like something happened now, happened then, you can use them everywhere. Okay, that's why, since we can see that the timeline is like very far away from this decade to 2017, that's why we actually cannot use at last here. So what is it left then? I hope you can get that. Why am I using then? Using our elimination process, we can go for at lastly as cross. We can't use that, we have to use then. I hope you get that. Also, then can be used. Also, this thing is called also called like the chronological event, chronological format. Like a thing happened at a very earliest event, and an event happened at the very earliest point. Then there is this gap, and another happened that there is a very big gap. That's when we can use them. So that's why this is actually the answer why we are using then here. I hope you understand what I said, and try practice more and more so that you will get the answers very easily. And here the main answer. Correct answer is B, as I have said. Choice B is the best answer. Then this is the answer choice that our college board account gave us to me. So if you anyone didn't understand what I said, you can go for this answer too. I'm also giving you this answer. You can take a picture or whatever you want. If you want to be able to pause the video and read this whole thing, you can. But I don't want to waste your time. That's why I'm going for another questions. And as I told you, the answer is then, and you can read if you want to gain more knowledge. That's